Access granted. Transferring data. Activated.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Peter Adkison, here on GenCon .tv. Let's see, twitch.tv/GenCon TV. This is my new show, Peter versus the Machine, and I am streaming this every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And just doing a quick sound check. Yes, it looks like you guys can hear me. That's good. Thank you, Steve and Marcus. I am in Colorado today, streaming from some of you friends of the show know Daryl Judd, who's been one of my longest friends from clear back in the 80s. He lives in Colorado, and we had an illness in our family, so I'm down spending some time with him. And it's interesting because I'm used to sort of a bigger setup at home where I got a big monitor off to the side, and lots of real estate. But I'm just doing this off of a laptop today, and this is the first time I've done this. By the way, I'm like really new to using OBS and streaming. This has been a lot of fun learning how to do this, and many thanks to Marcus Mays, our as we call him, God King Marcus, because we are religious around here and want to give proper due to God King Marcus, yes, who has been teaching me how to do all this. And I get amazing support also from Steve Connard, who has been creating all these wonderful animation type videos and stuff that we do with the show. And Tanel Lovett, who's done fantastic graphics for the show. And of course, Sarah Moore and Danny Kennedy, who help us get the word out social media. Okay, those are my moments of gratitude for this show. So let me grab Twitch chat. See, hi, hey, hi Cranston. Thank you for popping in. Hi GenCon TV. Thank you. Yeah. So pop in and say hi on chat if you're watching live. That's kind of the point of this. Like, it took me a while to figure out. I started running Gen Con TV a year ago. And, I was told going into it, well, it's all about chatting and playing games on Twitch, And about a year later, I suddenly said, hey, this is about chatting and playing games on Twitch. Maybe I should do that. So here I am doing that. Yes, learning Scythe. Yes, I am going to. Yes, I'm going to teach Scythe here in a moment. We'll get into it. If you have tips for me while I'm playing, let me know. I'm happy to listen to advice. Although I think I've got a pretty good plan for today. Hey, Paul, thank you for showing in. Steve, hi, Steve. Attuned? Am I attuned to a scythe? You mean like in D&D where you have a magic item that you have to be attuned to? Yeah, I think so. I think I am attuned to scythe, at least for today. Let's hope it holds up. Yeah, let's see. Okay, let me get my notes here. This is fun trying to do all the streaming and the gaming and everything all on one laptop. But I think I got it. Okay, yes, now I got my notes here. Okay, Peter versus Machine. So on this show, I will play strategy games and teach strategy games and also teach a little bit of strategy. My idea is to take our time, enjoy hanging out together, enjoy playing these games. I'm not trying to squeeze how to play Scythe into a 20-minute tutorial. Oh my gosh. No, I'm not trying to. I will also make mistakes. I'm just a gamer like you guys, man. I play games. I'm not like one of the top-rated game people in the world to play any particular game. But I like playing strategy games, and people tell me I'm a good teacher of strategy games. So let's go. Let's see. Paul says this is a big steampunk feudal world war game. Yeah, kinda. Let's start. Oh yeah, Steve. Yes, I do. There is a random key element that'll happen. We will talk about that when the time is right. But yes, there is. Okay, so yeah, let me just kind of give you the overview of Scythe. This is a board game is a very deep strategy game. It's designed by Jamie Stegmaier of Stonemaier Games. Came out in 2016. It is the theme of the game is an alternate history in what they call diesel punk, sort of an alternate history 1920s. It's the aftermath of World War One, and World War One were the first tanks. Well, within a few years, evidently they have the first mechs. So this game has mechs, but they're mechs as you might have imagined them being made in 1920s. There is, I imagine them as powerful and big, but smelly and loud. So the we have to mention the art in this game. The art is so evocative. It's by Jakub Rosalski, a Polish artist. As soon as we get into the game, you will immediately, if you've never seen SCYTHE, you will immediately be captivated by it. So this in this game, each of the players play a faction. I'll be playing one faction called Crimea. The AIs, the robots, the bots, if you will be playing the other factions. And we're going to play the 5 factions that are in the base game. And you go out and you try to do kind of the normal stuff you often do in a board game, like you're accumulating resources, you're building things, you're moving around the map, and you can encounter stuff and get toys, prizes. Ultimately, it comes down to duking it out with other mechs. I mean, maybe. You don't have to really fight in this game, but usually there's a few. Everybody's got mechs. Eventually somebody's going to open fire. There is a list of achievements that you can earn during the game. These are for accomplishing certain things, like deploying all your mechs. You can have up to 4 mechs. If you get all 4 of your mechs out on the map, you get what we call a star. If you get all 8 workers on the map, you get a star, and so forth. There's a bunch of different things. We'll go through them later. Whoever gets to finishes 6 or earns 6 stars first ends the game immediately. And then whoever has the most coins at that point wins. But a whole bunch of stuff is converted to coins in figuring out that final calculation at the end of the game. And you get coin awards based on how many stars you've earned, which is going to be 6 for whoever ended the game, but for everybody else, it's going to be a little bit less. So there is definitely an advantage to ending the game. And you also get stars for how many tiles you control, how many territories you control, and how many resources you have, and also if you've built any structures, where you've built them. Okay, we'll come back to all that in a little bit more detail, but that gives you kind of the basic idea. Okay, let me switch to the game. Okay, let's see if I can pull this off. Boom! Hey, did I do it? I think I did it. All right, so everything's going well. We should now be seeing the opening screen of SCYTHE, where we can start to play. And so, in fact, I'm going to play. I'm hoping you can see my mouse is really tiny right now. I have it moving around just above the S in the SCYTHE. I realize it's small. I will try to not rely on you being able to see the mouse, but it's by habit to just say, hey, click here and move the mouse over someplace. And anyway, so let us hit play and see what happens. New game. Okay, so we're going to play a new, this is sort of the starting setup for a game. I am going to play Crimea. These are all the different options of games. I'm going to set AIs to playing all the other standard factions that are in the game. They're not the expansions. You can play up to 7 players on this board. It gets a little crowded, and it slows the game down. Even though it would actually help me to have more players, because more people to hunt. I'm gonna set it at 5 players with the traditional 5 factions that are in the base game. I set all of the AIs or bots at hard. I am going to pick a in this game When you start the game, you have a combination of a faction that you're playing, like Crimea, Polania, Nordic. These are all kind of inspired by a hypothetical conflict in Eastern after with map. The map won't resemble that. Which direction of the compass they all come from as they converge in this hypothetical location. So when you start, you're going to get a faction, but you're also going to get what's called a player mat, which I will explain later when we have it at the right time. But I want to mention it now because it shows up here, and these player mats have names. I'm just going to do it random for everybody but me. I'm picking innovative. Yeah, I'm stacking the deck a little bit here. This game is... I like to compare this game to chess in the sense that the game has it warrants a lot of study about openings, just like chess does. And the reason that can come to play is because you always start in the same position. Everybody starts in the same location. The map always looks the same. You always start with the same pieces, much like when you play chess, everybody starts in the same position each time. So that helps in analyzing openings. And then there's a very rigid structure to what you can do on your turn, which we will get into. The combination of these two factors mean that this game is a very interesting game to study and to figure out, based on which faction I'm playing and which play mat I'm using, what is a good strategy with that. So that's something to know about this game. Okay, let me see. Gotta look at my notes. Remember, if I'm saying all the things I'm supposed to say here at these different points. Okay, yeah. Let's keep going. Okay. Okay, so this next screen that pops up is kind of like the game saying, yes, you're playing Crimea and you have faction abilities and objectives and stuff like that. Some of this stuff is hard to explain without having gone through everything else yet. I guess the machine didn't like my starting situation there, but we are pressing on. I've rebooted. Yeah, my computer just totally locked up, and I think it's overheating. I think I need to get a fan for my computer. This is just the machine is working too hard to try and get me to lose. Okay, so this is I was explaining the Crimea setup here. Let's see. I'm gonna get my Twitch chat going here. There it is. Okay, yay! Thank you, Armando. I'm your biggest fan too, Armando. Okay, so let me. I was explaining the starting screen here. Okay, so yes, I explained coercion. This in the bottom, in the middle, where it says Crimea, 5 power and 0, and it has a little card there. Your starting power and the number of combat cards you get at the beginning of the game are determined by your faction. So that's what it's telling me there. I'm playing, I told you about these play mats that you use that are different. So every game is going to be, there's multiple different combinations of player factions and player mats that you might use together. I'm using the innovative mat. And by using the innovative mat, no matter which faction you're playing, you start with 5 coins and 3 popularity. So that's what that information is. In the upper right, structure bonus, farms and tundras. Basically, the number of farms or tundras that have my structures on them is going to determine how many points I get for structures at the end of the game. The bottom left. Okay, so Steve asked earlier, what's the 30% chance that this might be a little harder on me? Unfortunately, we did roll the 30 or less. Maybe that's why the machine had to reboot and wanted another chance of getting this. Okay, so these are secret objectives, and like I mentioned before, the game will end when some player gets to 6 stars, and you earn these stars through various means. One of the ways you can earn a star is by accomplishing one of 2 secret objectives. Secret meaning, oh, they're not secret, we're talking about it on Twitch, but if we were playing, we would each have a hand, and these would be in cards, and you wouldn't show them to other players. Like, I don't know what the objectives are of the other factions. So I can get a star by completing one of these objectives, just one of them. Once you complete one objective, the other one becomes irrelevant. So the secret objectives are: one is called a wolf among the sheep, control a territory with my character, exactly one mech, exactly one worker, and at least 5 resources at the end of the turn. The other option is become a despised warmonger, which does actually sound right up my alley. Having 3 or less popularity, at least 13 power, and at least 2 mechs. Both of those are kind of tricky for me given my strategy. So this game had about a 70% chance of being an easy win for me, and now I'm going to say it's like it's going to be a little dicey. I can do it, it's just going to take me a little longer, and since this game is a race, it's like starting a race and somebody just added an extra cone on the chicane. You're going, oh no, how do I get around it? All right, so let me get my notes here. This game is complex enough that I have basically a script of what I need to, what I should explain when, and I want to make sure I don't get ahead of myself too far. Okay, I'm gonna hit start. There's gonna be an animation here that will. Now here's the map, by the way. You can see the map is absolutely beautiful, and it's going through and showing us these characters, which are the heroes of each of the 5 factions in this game. There are also mechs in this game that are really nice, like miniatures, but none of them in play yet, so you don't get to see them for a while. You just get to see the characters. And so each of the factions that are playing before my first turn are doing their things right now. It's going by a little too quick for me to explain what's going on. But now it has stopped and is waiting for me to do my turn. So let us explain a little bit what we see here. Okay, so there are, let's see here. There are 3 types of units that you have in the game. You have heroes, mechs, and workers. The hero, like I said, is this miniature of a figure. Looks like a D&D miniature, kind of. These workers, you see these little meeples, and you only have one hero, and you never get another one. You have a pool of up to 8 workers. You start with 2 of the workers. Every faction starts with 2 workers in play, and in the course of the game, you can get more workers to increase your production capacity. You also have 4 mechs, but none of them are deployed at the beginning. So there are other tokens that are yours as a faction. There are structures. There are 4 buildings that you can build in the course of the game. I don't intend to build any in this particular game. My strategy does not involve that, but I will try and you will see them. You will see the other factions build them. And then you also have some tokens in the board game. You would have these tokens by your faction that help you track things. Like over here is a popularity, and you see all these tokens are over here on the far left of the screen. And there's a black one, a yellow one. I'm playing Crimea, which is yellow, so that heart there represents the 3 points of popularity I have at the beginning of the game. There are also on the right side of the board, there's a power track. This is a combat related, it's like reserves of power that you can use to improve your chance of winning a fight. Very important. I start off with a little bit of advantage. I have 5 points of power, and everybody else has 4 or less. And okay, so let's talk about the board. The board is, you see these big circles, like where my miniature is. It has a big emblazon there, and there's, surrounding the map are these spots. These are home bases. These are the home bases of each faction. So near the bottom in the middle of the board here is the home base for Crimea, which is me. The next one is Saxony, home base, and so on around the game. This map supports up to 7 factions, so the 2 that don't have a character miniature on them are the two factions that aren't in this game. So there you go. We have other parts of this are territory. So the map is divided up into a big hex grid that you can see. And each hexagon or each tile or territory, I will probably not be consistent, and I'll probably jump between those different words, is a type. And it produces, most of them produce a type of resource. And so the one just above and to the right of my character here, where my meeple is, this is farmland. You can tell it's farmland. Farmland produces food. You can see a little icon of a bag of grain or something like that. That's there. The icon that's the meeple, that's a village, and villages produce more meeples. So if you want to get more workers, you can get them at the village. Mountains produce metal. Metal is useful for building mechs. Tundra produces oil, and forests produce wood. Those are the basic production tiles on the map. There's also some other things, other types of tiles. There are lakes. For the most part, we can't enter the lakes. There are exceptions. I am not one of the exceptions. I will not be entering the lake. The Nordic faction and I think Polania each have abilities that they can get during the course of the game to be able to let them go into lakes. There's also a factory right in the middle of the board. There's only one factory spot. It doesn't produce other things, but if you arrive at that spot with your character, you get an extra action card, which we'll explain in a bit. There's also rivers. You cannot cross a river without at the beginning. At the beginning of the game, nobody can cross any rivers except I think the Nordic player can cross with workers. I'm going to stop listing exceptions. Like in many games, every rule has ways to break the rule. That's what makes the different factions and stuff unique. Okay, so I mentioned that, let's see, let me look at my notes again here. Yes, okay, so the resources, I mentioned that the farms produce food and the mountains produce metal and stuff like that. If you look at the top of the screen, over on the right, you see the icons for oil, metal, wood, and food, and you see zeros beside them. That indicates that I currently don't have any of those things. But that is what the tokens look like, is like what these icons look like here. When you produce goods, you do that with the worker. So a worker, like right now, my two workers are on the field and the village. And so if I do a production action, the worker on the field will produce a grain, and so it'll show up on the top. But the grain also shows up on the map. So it's not like a lot of games where when you get more resources, you put them over in your stash of stuff off the map. No, the grain that worker produces is sitting in that tile. And I can only use it while I have somebody in the tile, while I control the tile. But if I leave that tile and don't take the grain with me, which I can do, somebody else could come along and take the grain. Or if somebody just comes along, even if I am in the tile and somebody comes along and just kicks my ass and takes the grain by force. So the resources that you produce are not are vulnerable, which means other resources that other people produce are also vulnerable. All right. Yes, that's right. Okay, so let's talk about the player mat, and this is what all this what's all this stuff down here at the bottom of the screen. This is getting into the core mechanic of Scythe, what makes Scythe brilliant and at times frustrating, and definitely a puzzle that you have to solve and get your head around to be able to play Scythe well. Okay, so down in this corner there are 8 boxes. If you can imagine, you probably can't see my mouse down here, but there's 2 rows, a top row and a bottom row, and each row has 4 boxes in it. So you can imagine that this is a grid, if you will, of 2 rows and 4 columns. And each cell in this grid represents an action that you can take on your turn. Okay, and there's icons here that explain, to help you remember what that action does. So in Scythe, when it is your turn, you're going to pick a column in this grid, and like say the left column, which in that column are 2 actions, what is often called a top row action and a bottom row action, because these are in rows, right? So if I pick the left column, I can do the top row action in the left column and the bottom row action in the left column. Those are the 2 things I'll be able to do this turn. I don't have to do them both. In fact, often I won't be able to do them both. I have the option of just doing the top row, or just doing the bottom row, or doing both of them. If I do both of them, I have to do the top row first. That's a rule. So, understanding what these actions are and thinking ahead to what ones you'll need to use later. And the thinking ahead part is important because you can't use the same column twice in a row. So if the first turn, I'm going to choose the left column here when I start. This first turn, I'm going to choose this left column, and I'm going to use the top row action, and I'm not going to do the bottom row action because I'm not going to be able to afford it. Next turn, when it's my turn again, when it comes back to me, I can use any of the other columns, but not the first one. So there is this analysis that you have to do about, based on which faction you're playing and what your strategy is going to be, how you're going to sequence. You have to think ahead, just like in chess. Think ahead. What are the moves I'm going to do in what order? The something else I was going to say about that. Well, let's I think let's just go through and explain what each of these actions are. Okay, so the top row action here on the, I remember what it was. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that there are player mats that vary, and so that each game, when you set up for the game, you're going to have a random, or you're going to pick a faction and also a player mat. These player mats there are several of them, and they're different. What's different about the mats is fundamentally is the order of the top row actions, which the bottom row actions are always in the same order, which means that this one down here, bottom left, is called the upgrade action, which costs oil to do something, and the next one, which costs metal to produce mechs, etc. Those 4 actions are always in the same order, but the top row actions will be the same on different boards, but they'll be in different order. So that means they're paired with different bottom row actions. And so in this game, I can think about my strategy in terms of doing this trade, it's called, in the first top row action on the left, and an upgrade together. But that same, the next time I play, if I'm using a different player mat, which might be Crimea, those actions might not line up. So the combination of all these different player mats and factions produces well, in the base game with 5 different factions and I think 7 different player mats, that would be 35 different combinations of how your particular faction might be configured at the beginning of the game, and what your options are going to be for playing that game. All right. Oh my gosh, I forgot to kid. So it's harder now to watch chat because I'm playing on a single laptop today, and so I have a take the factory, says Paul. Yeah, we are actually going to try and take the factory. And we're going to hope somebody takes it back from us. That's weird, but yeah, we're going to hope for that. We'll see what happens. Okay, I'm going to see if I can put that someplace where I can see it. Okay. So let me explain all these actions, and then I'll explain points, and we'll be ready to start. Okay, so first of all, there's a lot of color down here, a lot of different icons. What do they all mean? It's like, once you start to understand what they mean, then it's easy to sort out what they are. The first thing to know is that any of these icons, and I'm holding my mouse, I know it's really small, but I'm holding it in the upper left corner of that first top row action. Try and move it. Anything that's on a red background is a cost that you have to pay to do that action. Okay, so this trade action, which is the name of the action, that's just upper left, the first top row action, costs a coin. And by the way, there's two variants. Like when I take the top row action here, in this case the trade action, I choose whether I want to pay a coin to get 2 resources of my choice. That's what the pie symbol looks like. It's basically a pie that shows the grain and the oil and the metal and the wood colors. What that means is pick one of your choice. So I can pay 1 coin to get 2 resources of my choice, or I could pay 1 coin and get a point of popularity. Notice that there's a little thing that's shaded out here. It's possible that with an upgrade I could improve this action so that I could pay a coin and get 2 popularity. So down here in the bottom left, this is the upgrade option. This is where I would do that. I would pay 3, it has a red background, right? So 3 oil with red background means I have to pay 3 oil, and green background means this is what I get. The little gear thing means that's the symbol for you get an upgrade, and I also get 3 coins. I'll show you a little bit more detail about some of these when I actually go to use them. I'm going to use an upgrade fairly soon, so you'll see. The second top row action is called produce, and here is where I can, at the beginning there's no cost, there's nothing that's got a red background, but as I build workers, more workers on the map, a cost will be revealed and it will become expensive and eventually almost prohibitive to use the production action. And on the green, these hexes with hammers with a green background, that means I can pick 2 tiles, because there's 2 of those there. I can pick 2 tiles on the map where the workers on those tiles produce, all the workers. So if you have a whole bunch of workers in one spot, and maybe a couple workers in another spot, like we'll get to here soon, I can have all of them produce. But if your workers are too spread out, you're gonna have to pick which tiles produce, and you're not gonna get as much. The second bottom row action right below that is deploy. The cost is, this is by the way the most fun action of the game. You spend 3 metal in this case, and you get a mech. Yeah, we'll get some, and a coin. So that's how you get more coins. Third top row action is bolster, where you can spend a coin and get 2 points of power, or spend a coin and get a combat card, which we'll explain when we go through combat. The third bottom row action is you spend 4 wood to build a structure. So in this playmat, the building of structures is really expensive, which is one reason I'm not going to do it. And you get 2 coins. Last but not least, the fourth top row action is move. You got to be able to move your guys, right? Well, that's an action. You have to move any of your units. You have to pick this action. So you can see already that, since I can't pick the same action twice in a row, unless I'm the Russviet, which I'm not, or unless I get a factory card. Okay, I said I wouldn't mention exceptions. Hopefully, hey, let's make some rain while the sun is shining, or however that saying goes. Anyway, I did manage to recover my game, unfortunately, because the objectives I have in this game are tough. So I'm nervous. I was kind of hoping I'd lose the game and get better objectives, but I didn't. Okay, so we were just going to review what the different ways are to get stars. I'm going to go through this kind of quickly so we can get started in the actual game. 6 upgrades. That is if you use the lower, the first, good. If we use the lower, the first bottom row action to do the upgrade, if we do that 6 times, so that we've got all the possible upgrades, we get a star. If we deploy all 4 of our mechs, we get a star. If we build all 4 of our structures, we get a star. If we enlist all 4 of our recruits, we get a star. If we get 8 workers out on the map, we get a star. If we complete one of our objectives, we get a star. If we win a combat, we get a star, and we can earn that star twice. If we get popularity up to 18, that's this track here, which I'm at 3, you get a star. If we get power up to 16, that's this track here, we get a star. My strategy, and it's good to, once you know Scythe and you know which faction you're playing and what your starting board is, and you have a little time to think about your strategy, it's best if you can sort of decide at the beginning, what are the stars I'm going for, so you optimize that strategy. And so I am going to go for the 4 mechs, I'm going to go for the 4 recruits, I'm going to go for the 8 workers, I'm going to go for an objective. That one's a little iffy, you got to put that half finger up for that. And I'm going to go for 2 combat victories, so that'll get me to 6. If it looks like getting the objective is going to be too difficult, my backup star will be to go for 16 power. But while the particular objectives are not conducive to what my strategy would normally be, one of them is control territory with your character, exactly 1 mech, exactly 1 worker, and at least 5 resources. Yeah, I can do this. It's just going to slow me down a little bit. The hard part is remembering to do it at the right time while streaming and explaining the rules. This is hard. It's one thing to play a game where you're just thinking about it yourself, but to sit and talk about it while you're playing it, oh my gosh, it's really freaky. Having the other objective, having 3 or less popularity, maybe that'll happen. We'll see what happens. Okay. For the first 5 or 6 turns, though, it's I'm going to do the same thing I would normally, and I want to. Okay, so it's my turn. We did see the other when we first started this up. The other factions took turns. The first faction was Polania. And by the way, this sliding thing on the left here, this bar, it's kind of like a cue that records what all the actions were, so you can kind of review what's happening. And in fact, if you see the very first, if I mouse over the topmost one, the very first action shows that Polania did the produce action. And in fact, you see that beside both of Polania's workers here, the worker that's in the forest, there's a wood. The worker that's in the fields, there's a food. So that checks out. Nordic did the trade action, which is what I'm going to do. The trade action lets you you pay 1 coin and get 2 resources of your choice. And Nordic chose to take 2 wood. I'm not going to go through every character each time, but I just want to kind of this first time give you an idea of what they all did. Rusviet did the produce action, which and you can see its workers are on. The worker that's in the mountains produced a metal. This worker that is in the village produced another worker. Wonder how that happened. All right, keep it PG, folks. Okay, now it's my turn. Okay, I keep looking at my text. Are we still up? Looks like we are. Okay. Unless my phone stops working, then I'm just going to be sitting here talking and playing Scythe by myself. So I mean, that's not that bad of a life, but I better play with y'all. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to start with the trade action. Yes, I know what I'm going to do. I've looked at this. I have there are the openings. There are strategy guides out there. There are openings for all the different mats. Because there is some random chance, the openings only get you so far. So I am using an opening. I'm going to admit that to you. But it also takes a certain amount of you got to make sure you pull off the opening just right and do the right things. Anyway, so I'm doing a trade. Okay, so I paid a coin and I'm getting what's popped up here. These 2 boxes are the places where those resources can appear, which is basically where I have workers. And so, because remember, when you get resources, they're on the map. So I'm going to click the oil here. I want oil in this case. And so I'm just going to click that twice. So there we go. There's my 2 oil. And that's my turn. That's all I do. I can't do the bottom row action because the bottom row action is to do an upgrade. It costs 3 oil, and I only have 2. And and so I'm done. That's it for my turn. Saxony is doing a trade also and getting a bunch of oil. Polania is doing a trade for more wood. I think they're queuing up to build a structure. Nordic is doing producing. Rusviet is doing producing. Now, you probably didn't notice it went by pretty fast, but Rusviet did producing last turn, so they did producing twice in a row. Yeah, their faction ability is that each turn they can, if they want to, use the same column of top and bottom row actions that they did on the previous turn. So that's pretty nice. It's really nice. I actually don't like playing Rusviet because I think in my mind that advantage, while it's really powerful, kind of defeats the purpose of Scythe. Like this challenge of having to move to a different column, I find that a really interesting puzzle. And when you play Rusviet, you're kind of denied having to do that. So I don't play Rusviet unless I have to. Okay, it's back to me. I am going to do the produce action, and so when I click on that, now in the produce action, if you look at that top row action down there where, I don't know if you can see my mouse squiggling around like a madman, it shows 2 green hexes, right? And with hammers in them, that means that you can produce on 2 spots. So it's showing me the 2 spots I have. I only have workers in 2 spots, so that works out just well. So I click on those hammers, the workers produce. So my worker in the village produced another worker. My worker out in the farms produced a food. The bottom row action is producing mechs, deploying mechs. It's called. I don't have any metal. I can't do that. So I'm done. Okay, and now Saxony goes. They did a move. So you see, they can move 2 units. They did. And then they spent some oil and did an upgrade. So where for me on my player mat, trade and upgrade are the matching top and row bottom actions. For Saxony, it's move and upgrade. I don't have the mind that I can memorize what all the other players' combos are. I will forget what I just said within a turn or 2. And it doesn't really. I'm not playing at the level of Scythe masters who would know all that and incorporate it into their thinking of what they're doing. I'm not that good. So I'll admit that. All right. So now it's my 3rd turn. I'm going back to doing another trade, and I'm going to trade for more oil. And this time I can do the bottom row action because it costs 3 oil and I have 4. So I'm going to do the bottom row action, which is an upgrade. And I didn't explain very much how this works before, what the upgrade does, because it's better to do it now while I'm doing it, where I can kind of show you. The upgrade action, when you take it, allows you to improve one of your top row action slots and one of your bottom row action slots. So you get to improve for future use 2 of your actions. The way the top row actions are improved is that they become better. The way the bottom row actions are improved is they become cheaper. So, and you don't have to they don't have to be in the same column. They don't, they can be any one of these. So I'm going to choose for my top row action to improve. I'm going to choose the produce top row action. And then for the bottom row action to make cheaper, I'm going to make cheapen, enlist. Now that I've done that, you can see that the produce action has three tiles that will produce instead of 2. And you probably didn't notice that enlist costs 3 food, now it only costs 2. Okay, so now I am ending my turn. Saxony is doing another trade. Polania's trading. Trade's a very popular one. Nordic is moving. And we just saw an example of one of Nordic's special faction abilities is that their workers can cross rivers. I guess they swim in the cold water and don't care. Yeah. Normally you can't cross a river until you get a mech that lets you do so. Okay, Rusviet did a move, and now it's my turn again. Okay, I'm going to produce again. You do a lot of producing in the beginning because you're really, it's like any engine building game. You're trying to get your engine going. You're trying to develop your infrastructure and stuff like that. Well, that's exactly what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to do a produce. Even though I can produce in 3 tiles, I only have workers in 2 tiles. So I will produce in those. But every worker in the tile gets to produce. So here, where I produce on the village, since I have 2 workers in the village and produce, now I have 4 workers in the village. So that's pretty nice. And the 1 worker out in the fields produce 1 more food. Okay, now that's it for that turn. Now it's turn 4. By the way, I am hoping with this combo of playing Crimea and Innovative, I have been in the past able to win in 13 turns. That's very, very hard. It's not going to happen this game, that's for sure, because of the objective complexity. Typically, you can win in 14 turns with this combination. Because of the objective not being ideal for my situation, I'm hoping that I win in turn 15. If I win. I'm predicting I will win on turn 15. It's like playing Dune in the Bene Gesserets, where you win if you guess that the Fremen win in turn 3, and they do, then you win instead? Yeah. No, I guess it's not like that at all. Okay. My round 5. It's time to do a move. Okay, I'm gonna move this time. I've been going back and forth between trade and produce, and I am gonna do more, at least 1 more trade and at least 1 more produce. But I'm gonna do a move here. The main thing I'm trying to do is to enlist my 4 recruits and deploy my 4 mechs. Those 2 things are what I'm really trying to do. Everything else is a strategy for how to get those things done as quickly as possible. Well, my worker in the fields has gotten us up to 2 food, and if you look at the combination of top row and bottom row actions here that include the move, the rightmost pair, you can see that 2 food lets me enlist a recruit. So I want to pick that, but I might as well move while I'm here because I'm also going to do some at least 1 piece that's going to be very important for moving. So I'm going to pick move, and I'm just going to move 1 worker over to here into the mountains. What could workers in the mountains do? Oh, they can produce metal. What do you need metal for? To build mechs. So we are beginning to get to where we can get some mechs. All right. I feel compelled to move the character here. One of the things I did not explain is encounters. Scattered about the board are these little. You see my worker in the mountains, right? Just south of him, there's a little medallion there, a little token. That's an encounter token. There's another one in the hex just northwest of my hero over here, just above the lake. There's one over there. They're all over the place. When your character enters a tile with one of those medallions, these encounter spots, you get a toy. Basically, you get a prize. And it'll be 3 options, and it's kind of random. You get to choose between the 3 options which one you want, and they're nice little benefits. So you definitely want to go for them. As the game goes on, a lot of the prizes will be off strategy for you and won't be necessarily that interesting, but sometimes they're really good. Okay, so I've done my move, and now I'm going to do the enlist function. It costs 2 food. And now I will show you how the enlist function works. I'm enlisting a recruit, and the recruit I'm going to place in one of these 4 spots, one of these 4 bottom row actions. And when I do that, and I'm going to pick the enlist over here in the very bottom right corner of the screen. When I put a recruit here on the enlist action, it means, and you notice that there's a prize here, which is a combat card. In the other places, it's a popularity point or a coin or a power, a point of power. In this case, the prize here is a combat card. What that means is that by having a recruit in that enlist bottom row action, every time in the future that I use the enlist bottom row action, I get a combat card extra on top of whatever the enlist does. But it gets better. Not only do I get that every time I do an enlist, if either of my neighbors, meaning Saxony or Rusviet, if either one of those factions uses the enlist function, I get a combat card. Cool. So I am going to take that. This is part 1 of my prize for enlisting a recruit. I also get to choose one of these 4 prizes over here. These are just like a one-time benefit, that something you get right away. I'm going to choose the 2 combat cards. Like, are you sensing a theme? Yeah, you're sensing a theme. You might remember very early when we started this stream that I mentioned Crimea has a faction ability called Coercion, which once per turn I can spend 1 combat card as if it were a resource. I haven't used that yet because I haven't had any combat cards, but now I do. Okay, I got my recruit. That's the end of my turn. All right, here goes Saxony doing a trade and a deploy. See, now I care a lot about what his bottom row action is, because if it's an enlist, I get another combat card. Now Polania is doing a trade. If Polania or Nordic does enlist, I don't get any bonuses. It's just my neighbors, Rusviet, and no, neither one of them did enlist. That's okay. They will eventually. Also, eventually, I'll have recruits on every single function that they could possibly do. So I'll be getting all sorts of prizes by the end of the game. Okay. So, excuse me. I apologize for coughing. A little bit of a cough this today. Excuse me. Okay. It's back to my turn. Turn 6. And I just did I did the move last turn. So it's good. Hopefully that'll probably be back. Apologies. Okay, I am trying to remember what my strategy was here. I gotta think for a second. I'm either going to do I'm going to do a trade first so that I can improve so that I can use the upgrade to lower the cost of mechs. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so in a subsequent turn. Okay, so I'm going to trade for 2 oil, and then I'm going to use the upgrade action, which requires 3 oil, which is exactly what I have. This is the last time I will use trade/upgrade. And now it's telling me, what do I want to upgrade? Well, because I plan on getting into some fighting later, I'm going to improve the move action, so that instead of being able to only move 2 units, I can move 3 units. And remember, when you upgrade, you get to improve one of the top row actions and reduce the cost of one of your bottom row actions. I'm going to reduce the cost of deploying mechs. So now it only costs me 2 food to enlist a recruit and 2 metal to deploy a mech. And that's it. Now things are next turn, by the way, we're going to make a mech. Yep. I know. I'm like a little kid. I'm all excited. I'm gonna make a mech. I'm not even paying attention to what everybody's doing. What's going on here? Okay. Planet deployed a mech. And Nordic is doing a trade so that they can get oil, which means they're going to do an upgrade probably. Yep, they're doing an upgrade. Roosevelt is doing a produce and an upgrade. Boy, I can't wait till I get my upgrade recruit. Okay, now it is my turn once more. Okay. We are going to do what is probably our last... And by the way, I'm going to be a little paranoid about the objective. I'm going to look at it each frequently to remind myself, because this is kind of outside the normal plan, this combination of faction and player mat. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to do a production. Because I upgraded the production top row action, I can produce on all 3 of the tiles that I have workers on, which is nice. And then the bottom row action, deploy mechs. I'm going to do that, but you're like, wait, you only have 1 metal and you need 2. Well, let's spend the metal, but remember, my faction ability is I can use a combat card. These are the combat cards down here in the bottom right, just left. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but just left of where the end turn button is. There's this column that shows a big red 2 on a yellow card. That's the combat card with the number 2. And the 2 to the left of it means I have 2 of those. So combat cards have values of 2 through 5. You'll see more exactly what they do, aside from, for me, acting as resources, when we get in our first fight. And I have 2 of the 2s. The 2s are the worst ones. I have 2 of them. That's great, because I'm going to spend it like a resource, and I'd feel really yucky if I spent a 5 as a resource. I wouldn't feel that yucky. I'd just do it. Okay, so there. I just spent a combat card. Now I only have 1. Okay. Mechs and their abilities. In addition to being able to carry workers, which characters can't do, but mechs can carry workers, and anybody, by the way, mechs characters both can carry resources when you move, and workers can carry resources. Mechs also, each time you deploy a mech, you gain a special ability that applies to all of your mechs and your character. So, and the mech I'm going to, and it's over here, so basically I'm going to click on one of these 4 spots on the left, these glowing spots that each describe a special ability. I'm going to start with the speed mech. This will, normally your mechs and your character and your workers can only move 1 tile when they take the move action. This will increase the speed of my character and mechs, not the workers, to 2 tiles, 2 hexes. So I'm going to take that, and you ready for this? I'm going to place it here with all those workers. There it is. There's the mech. Let's zoom in on it, right? Yeah, that's the mech. All right. Yay. We did that. Okay, we did it. We did it! We have a mech. Now, the reason I put the mech where I did with all those workers, I will probably never use the produce function again in this game. So, first of all, I can't produce more workers than 8. Once you have 8 total workers, you can't produce workers anymore. I can produce other resources, but I actually have all the resources I need to... that's not true. I do, because of the objective. If I go for the objective that requires 1 of each resource, but I probably won't use the produce function to get it. Maybe I will. Still thinking about this. Normally what I was about to say is I have all the resources I need, so therefore I'm not going to do a produce anymore. Turns out I don't quite have all the resources I need if I choose the first of the 2 objective options, which is to control a territory with my character, control a territory with my character, exactly 1 mech, exactly 1 worker, and at least 5 resources. Oh, I misread this. Okay, 5 there's another objective that's very similar to this, where the resources you have to have all the different types of resources. This one doesn't. I just have to have 5 resources. they can be... Oh. I think I'm going to get this objective next turn. Alright. What the heck am I doing? Okay, it's my turn again. I'm going to keep that up there. Just because I got to be really conscious of making sure I get that objective. There's going to be this one moment where I have it, and you have to claim it. It's not enough to have done what the objective says. You've got to... If you were at the board game, you'd have to announce, hey, I did my objective, and you can only do that at the end of your turn, and then you get the star. And it's the worst part of this game, in my opinion, when you're playing at the board, is that if you forget to say that, it goes on to somebody else's turn, and unless the people you're playing with are all really generous, you missed your opportunity, and then next turn you can't move off, do something. Anyway, you get the idea. Fortunately for the video game, we're playing this video implementation. It will actually say, "Hey, you got an objective. You sure you want to do that?" Or anyway, so that's good. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to move. Basically, the most important functions for me right now are to alternate between the production / deploy Mac, really the deploy Mac, and enlisting recruits, because those I'm racing to get those 2 stars, and they're also really good. They also give me really good in-game advantages, so they're worth going for. Okay, so I can't do the deploy Mech because I just did this, so I've got to go over here to the rightmost pair of top and bottom row actions. I'm gonna pick, and we're gonna get some mileage out of the move, also. Okay, so control a territory with your character. I'm going to choose this territory because it does have, by the way, an encounter. Exactly 1 mech. I am going to load up all these mechs. Now, by the way, so this mech is sitting here with a bunch of workers. So there's a little screen that shows up here just to the right of these top and bottom row actions, in the bottom part of my screen, that shows a kind of a messy sort of functionality of how you can load resources and workers onto your mech. Basically, anything in the left half is stuff that's on the ground. Anything in the right half is stuff that's on your mech. So, and you can hit the double chevrons just to load them all up. So I just loaded up all the mechs, all the workers, onto my mech. There's no resources here to grab. So I'm going to totally vacate this hex. Now I'm going to... I really got to make sure I do this right. I'm going to move here to this hex. And here I'm going to... Remember, I can move 2. So I've only moved 1. I still have 1 more tile I can move for this mech. I'm going to drop off one of these resources so that I have 1 more worker producing food. I could drop off 2 workers. It doesn't matter. I have to drop, but I do have to drop off 1 or 2. And then I'm going to come over here where that ends that mech's turn. Now, if I look at my objective, control a territory with your character, exactly 1 mech, exactly 1 worker, and I got a whole bunch of workers. Okay, that's okay. We will get there. Thinking about how to do this. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I've moved everybody I want to. I could move 1 more unit, but everybody's exactly where I want them to be. So I'm going to end the move action, not my turn. Yeah. And now, because I moved on to that encounter medallion, it's now showing me this encounter card. If it was a board game, we'd be drawing from a stack of cards here. So I click on it to see what the options are. First of all, take a moment to love this art. Here are cows and peasants working in the field, and this mech is coming up here. And it doesn't explain the scene, except it explains the scene in a way, it's very cleverly. It asks you, what do you do in this situation? Do you, A, distract the rogue mech with your yodeling skills to save the cow? If you do that, you gain 2 points of popularity. Or your second option, seize control of the mech and scuttle into the forest. So in that, you can pay 4 coins to deploy a mech. That's pretty cool. Or steer the cow under the mech to see what happens. Lose 2 popularity and gain 2 combat cards and 3 power. Oh my gosh! I mean, by the way, that's tempting. I haven't explained the value of popularity. Popularity is there's a formula for at the end of the game where the popularity, depending on what tier you're at, 0 to 6 is tier 1, 7 to, I don't know, 12 maybe is tier 2, then like 13 to 18 is tier 3. And depending on what tier your popularity is, some of the point categories you multiply by higher and higher numbers. Well, I'm telling you now, I have no danger of getting into, a very little chance of getting into even the tier 2 popularity as a warmonger in this game, in this particular strategy that I have. So it is kind of tempting to spend. I have 3 popularity. If I spend, I'm going to have to do 1 more produce. If I pay 2 popularity, I'll have 1 popularity left, which I could then use for the produce. Do I need popularity for anything? I think it is possible to get into that second tier. I don't know if I want to, by taking the 2 popularity and maybe I get another encounter card and get another 2 popularity. But the problem is when you go into combat, if you displace a worker, you lose a point of popularity. And since I'm playing against the hard AI bots, they're not that hard compared to like competitive players. But one thing I've noticed about playing against the hard bots is that when the other factions come out with their mechs and start coming out and exploring, they will often take workers with them to kind of not really protect the mech, but make it more costly for you to go out against them. So I think I'm gonna do it. So I lost some popularity. I'm down to 1 popularity, but I just gained more combat cards, which gives me a little bit of more options in combat and more times that I can use combat cards in places of resources. And I have a higher power rating. My power now is, here's the power scale. My power, I'm the yellow marker here. I'm up to 7. You'll notice that the 7 is circled. What that means is that when we talk about how power works in combat, you can only use up to 7 points of power in any one particular combat. So that's why that's circled there. And my popularity is down to 1. Well, okay. Well, hey, I'm not here to make friends. Okay, I did the move. The move is done. I'm going to do the enlist and spend a food and a combat card to get another to enlist another recruit. The question is, where do I want to put them? We'll put the recruit either under, this is always kind of tough. So the general strategy for where you put your recruits, because the recruit is going to give you a bonus of, either a combat card or a popularity point or whatever, every time I use that action, you want to put them where you are going to use the actions. Plus your neighbor's going to use them, but you can't really predict where your neighbors, when they're going to use bottom row actions. So I do know that the enlist and deploy, enlisting recruits and deploying mechs are the 2 things I'm going to use the most. So that's why I chose enlist first. I'm going to choose deploy, but I really like power. That's really useful in combat. But I did just kind of get a bit of a power bonus. I think I'm going to play a more conservative strategy. Coins are victory points at the end of the day, and I know I'm going to be coming back to deploy 2 more times after this. So I also get one of these things on the left. The coins, I have enough coins. I don't need coins during the game. It's just a matter of how many coins I have at the end. And popularity doesn't do much good for you during the game, except I don't want to run out of popularity and limit my options. I'm going to go ahead and take the 2 popularity now. Normally I would wait and take the power because it definitely is helpful during the game. All right. So I got all that stuff. Yes, I moved and enlisted. I'm done with this turn. Saxony is doing a move, and what else are they doing? Taking their time. Come on, speed it up. They're still moving. They got an encounter. And an upgrade. Okay. Melania is doing a produce and a deploy to build a mech. And they got some coins for that. Nordic is doing a bolster of its power and deploying another mech. Speed mech, by the way. So his mechs and characters can move to now. Rusviet just did an upgrade. That's all they did. Okay, it's back to me. Okay, I'm gonna call out my objective again. Okay, I need to control a territory with a character, exactly one mech, exactly one worker, and at least 5 resources at the end of your turn. Okay, well, let's make a bunch of resources. We'll sort this out. Next turn, I think, is the turn that we will do that. Okay, we're going to do the produce action, produce a lot of metal and a bunch of food, and then we're going to deploy. We're not going to spend the metal. We don't have to use a combat card. We have enough metal to build the last 3 mechs, so we still have to go. We're going to grab the Riverwalk mech. Okay, so what the Riverwalk mech lets you do, remember these abilities apply to every mech you have and your character. So by taking this, it means that all my mechs and my character will be able to cross rivers, but not just willy-nilly anywhere you want to cross a river. You cross a river into a farm or tundra tile. What's on the other side of the river has to be a farm or tundra tile. So I'm going to take this. Now, I'm thinking about whether the objective, where that objective is going to happen. Okay. Well, I'm going to have a lot of options for how I move things around. So I'm going to put the mech here. So when I go to move, I've got mechs in both tiles. So I'll have a lot of, and I can cross rivers, and I have a speed of 2, so I'll have a lot of options for how I move stuff around. So next turn I will probably do the move and get the objective, and maybe if I'm lucky I can do the move in such a way that it is consistent with my strategy for this game. But I can't think about that right now. Okay, Saxony's doing a... I missed what Saxony did. That was Polanius doing something. Well, I can look at my little cheat sheet over here. It looks like Saxony did a... produce. Okay, Rusviet is doing the trade. Gonna deploy. I have a recruit on the deploy bottom row action now, right? Remember? So now I get a coin for that. See, there it is. There it is. I got it free. That's my recruits. Imagine what it's gonna be like when all 4 of the recruits are working for me. Well, the game's gonna be almost over. That's what's gonna happen. But anyway, it's a nice thought. It's comforting. Gives a nice warm feeling in the tummy of a warmonger. Okay, so my options this turn. I have everything I need to complete the objective. I've got at least 5 resources. Let's look at this again. Control a territory with your character, exactly 1 mech, exactly 1 worker, and 5 resources. Okay, so I need to basically consolidate all those into the same spot. So, do I want to do this the safe way? Or do I want to do this the daring way? Well, of course I want to do it the daring way. Because drama, right? Want drama? I care more about having a great show than winning. that's my gift to you. Okay, so we're gonna do this in a very daring way. I'm gonna pick move. The daring part is I'm gonna move a bunch of my resources outside, my home territory, which is kind of dangerous because they can get stolen. Now I'm going, do I really want to do this? This might not be a good idea. Yeah, why not? Okay, so I'm going to move a mech with exactly one worker and all the resources that are in this spot. You know, just for the hell, I'm gonna leave back. Yeah, let's just go. And I'm gonna go to here and grab one food. Let's see, I'm down here at the bottom right, futzing with this thing. Okay, and now I have. Oh, we can't get to that spot. Okay, I think I have an undo. That's not cheating. I just have an undo. Yeah, I have an undo. Okay, I'm gonna start my turn over here. Okay, my Riverwalk ability means that I can move. When I cross a river, I have to land on tundra or farm, so I can't move directly across a river from this hex to that hex. I got my character over there, but the character moved to the tundra and then moved over. Okay, so I can't actually do the daring thing, so I'm going to do the slightly less daring thing and move. My objective, the moment where all this comes together is going to happen in this hex instead of the other one. Okay, so now we're going to load just one worker and all the metal and go to here. Let me look at this again. Character, exactly one mech, exactly one worker, at least 5 resources I've got. Okay, good. So now I need to get a... Oh, no, let's back up. Sorry. I gotta take the food over there at the same time. Okay, come on, let me undo. Undo. There we go. Okay. Sorry about this, guys. All right, so now we're going to move character. The mech is going to pick up one worker, all the metal, move to here, grab one food, and then move to here. Okay, so sanity check this before we lock it in. Control territory with a character. Yep, I'm looking at this tundra. Exactly one mech, exactly one worker, at least 5 resources at the end of your turn. Okay, I got it. Okay, now it's still my move. I can move another unit. I'm going to move this mech over to here because I am eventually going to move all of these workers out of here. They're not doing me any good there anymore. And the mech is the most efficient way to do that. Okay, I'm finished with the move action. This game's a lot more stressful than it was supposed to be when I was practicing. Okay, now we're gonna do the enlist. Let's use the grain that's out here. And let's use a combat card because I'm going to use that other grain and combat card to build my 4th recruit later. Okay, so let's enlist the recruit for the upgrade bottom row action. Let's take the power. Remember, the enlists give you 2 things. They give you an improvement on a bottom row action and a one-time reward. Okay, so I gain 2 power and 1 combat card. starting to get a nice stockpile of combat cards. I'm up to 3 combat cards, one with value 3, one with value 4, one with value 5. I've got 8 power. I'm not too popular. There's that cow incident. I feel kind of bad about it. But it's just a game, so we deal with it. We go on. Okay. That was... What did I do? Sometimes you lose your concentration for what you're doing. I did a movement and I did a recruit. Okay, I'm done. That turn. Okay. Whew. Wait. I didn't claim the objective. Did I not have it? Okay. No, because you know what I did? I spent the grain. That was one of the 5 resources. I spent the grain on the enlist. So at the end of the turn, I didn't have the 5 resources there. Okay. We'll fix this. We will fix this. I was hoping that I could do the objective in sort of in an elegant enough way that it wouldn't slow me down. That turns out not to be the case. This next turn, I will do sort of what I would call a wasted turn, which is it's outside the plan. It's going to get me the objective, so it's it's strategic, but would have been nice. This is the penalty for the setback, if you will, that the objective wasn't as easy to get as a lot of the objectives are. Okay, so I need to have 5 resources in this spot and not spend any of them. I could do a produce, but then I'm going to lose a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm going to get a bunch of stuff I don't really need. So I'm going to go back to our old friend, the trade action, and I'm going to spend a coin, and I'm going to pick up a food and I think that actually gets me everything I need, but let's just get a metal. I'm not going to do an upgrade. I can't afford it. I'm not going to do it. Okay, so now I'm done with my turn. I can go up to here and say complete and end the turn. Yay. There we go. I got my objective. Whew. It wasn't pretty, but we did it. And we're gonna see here soon the final stretch. We are past the mid game. We are close to the end game here. We're kind of like in the transition from mid game to end game now. It's going to be round 12. I did mention that it is possible to win Crimea Innovative in 13 rounds. It's not going to happen today. That's like really, really rare. It requires this crazy stroke of luck where let's see what's going on here. Route SCYTHE is moving. By the way, I still got a lot to do. I still have another 2 mechs to build. I still have another recruit to enlist. I still have 2 combat stars I have to get. Yeah, this is going to go to round 16, I'm going to guess. Let's check on a couple things. So this is, by the way, I didn't really point this out earlier. This is where you put your stars. As you gain stars, they're called stars because each faction has these little tokens that look like stars, and you have 6 of them. And once you get 6 of them up on this map somewhere, then the game ends. And so I've got a star on the 8 workers, and I've got a star on my objective now. And just to remind you, my goal is to get a star for the 4 mechs, the 4 recruits, and 2 stars on combat. These are both combat stars. Combat, you have to win a combat to get one of those stars, and not versus workers. It has to be versus mechs or characters. Why is this thing up? I don't know. What is that? Anyway, I'm gonna do a move. There's a little artifact up on my screen that is sitting there, and I'm not sure why. Anyway, I'm gonna do a move. Right? Let me think. Yeah, I can't do... I still have 1 Well, let me change my mind on that. Yeah, well. Okay. I have to get I've got 3 of the recruits out. So I got to do one more move / enlist to get my 4th recruit. I have 2 mechs out. So I have to do 2 deploys. And since I can't do 2 deploys in a row, I'm going to do a deploy next. So that, yeah. The sad thing is, I was really hoping to get, there's an encounter right here. This weird artifact that showed up on the screen is covering it up. But there's an encounter. I think it's still there. Yeah, it's still there. So there's part of me that really wants to do a move now so that I can get that encounter. Also, I need to start moving mechs into the middle of the board where they can fight. I think I'm going to... Let's see, can Saxony even get this encounter? Nobody else can get to the encounter except for Saxony. Saxony's character, let's see what mechs they have. Saxony has... they do have their Riverwalk mech out, and it allows them to cross rivers. I'm looking over on the left side of the screen there. It allows them to cross rivers to forests or mountains. So they can't move, the character can't move directly to here. But Saxony also has, I think, some sort of weird underpass. Okay, yeah, underpass. Move between any mountain you control and any tunnel. Okay, so they could move from here to a tunnel. And he can move 2. So he could move 1, 2. He can't get there with this character this turn. He could go just stake out the spot with his mechs, and it's not really that important I get the encounter. So I'm going to do this, I think, the more conservative way, which is, hey, if in doubt, bring out more mechs, right? Okay. I'll check one thing here. Yeah, okay. So I'm taking this column. I'm not taking the produce action. The produce is really expensive. It costs a power, a popularity, and a coin, and I get a bunch of resources, which are worth victory points, but in the overall scheme of things, not that many victory points. And I don't want to lose power because power is going to be really important to fights, and I had to be a little careful with my power. Okay, so let's do a deploy. Yes, I'm skipping the top row action to take the bottom row action. I'm going to spend 2 metal. I'm going to spend the metal that's out here in the more exposed place. I'm going to get a scout mech. Okay, this is kinda some of the secret sauce here of the Crimea. I did not I thought I'd wait and spring this on you when it comes up. The scout mech is really cool. Let's the scout mech, before combat, when I get in a fight with somebody, before combat, I get to steal one of my opponent's combat cards at random. And I haven't explained combat yet, but you're going to see combat cards are really, really cool. Okay, so now I deployed the mech. That's it. That's it for my turn. Okay. Saxony is doing a move. They moved the character over there, okay, to get that encounter. And they took the upgrade action, which will give me another point of power, which is good because of my recruit sitting on the upgrade. Okay, Melania is doing a produce and a deploy for another mech. Good, more targets. Steve texted me that the background music is really nice. I'm glad. I apologize that I'm not engaging in chat right now, but I'm since my computer's crashed 3 times, I'm nervous about opening any extra windows, that sort of thing. Okay, my turn. All right. Well, we are going to move so that we can do the enlist and get our last enlist. going. Then next turn we can deploy. So we're going to get another star this turn. And we need to be thinking about who we can fight where. We need to be like looking at places where we have an opportunity to pick off a mech. Rusviet's got 2 mechs here, the character here. You know, a lone mech or character is good, easy pickings, but that's too hard to get to. Nordic has 1 mech here. Oh, one thing I didn't explain, this is really crucial actually, is tunnels. Okay, there are, see where this tundra spot where I have my hero and 2 mechs, there's a little tunnel icon there. And then if you go 2 hexes and slightly up to the right, there's another tile with a tunnel. And if you go north from that 2 hexes, there's a tunnel. Basically, there is a ring of tunnel hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tunnel hexes that kind of form a ring around factory. These tunnels are, imagine those hexes as being adjacent to each other. So you can, from this tunnel hex, I can, with 1 movement point, go to any of the other tunnels. So there's a lot of more mobility here than there would be if without the tunnels. So from here, I could go to this tunnel and then cross the river into this space in 1 move, because I have a movement of 2, and that going to the first tunnel is 1 movement point, and my river walk ability lets me cross rivers onto farms or tundra, and this is tundra. But there are 2 mechs there. On the other hand, Rusviet does not have much power, so Rusviet is in a nice vulnerable position. I would displace all these workers if I did that, if I won, which would cause my popularity of 2 to plummet. Well, it can't plummet very far, it's only 2. And you don't get penalized if you can't lose all the popularity you're supposed to lose, I don't think. Otherwise, this game's going to be really embarrassing. So that's one reason that it's really hard to be aggressive in the game and get a popularity outside the first tier, because you're probably going to go out fighting mechs that are being protected by workers. Also, Rusviet, yeah, let's see. Okay, here Polania has 2 mechs. These 2 mechs stacked up are not easy targets. Although if I move 3 into a spot, it's reasonable. Let's see, who else? Where's everybody's power at? And also, when you get in combat, you're going to lose power, so it's going to be dicey, and I've got to get 2 combat stars. So, all right. What am I going to do here? I think that what I want to do is, I think I'm going to pick on Saxony. And I think that I can beat Saxony. Oh, that's the other thing to look at, is how many combat cards do they have. Saxony has 6 combat cards. That's not good. Nordic only has 1, but I didn't see any good I didn't see a way to target Nordic. I can't get to this spot here. Okay. Well, in spite of the fact that they have a lot of combat cards. Okay, so you can probably figure out that they're gonna. I don't know. That's looking like a tough target. All these are looking like tough targets today. Okay, we're not going to pick a fight this turn. We're going to get in position to pick fights next turn with the benefit of all of our mechs. We've got 1 more mech to build. Okay, so what I'm going to do this turn is I'm going to move, take the move action, and I'm going to move the character to the factory instead of the encounter. do I want? No. I think I'd rather have the encounter than the factory card. There we go. Okay, now it's letting me. The undo to start over your turn. It's a little tricky on this. Okay, I'm gonna move my character to the village where the encounter is. I'm gonna move a mech to the factory. It's not gonna get me any cool factory sort of thing, but it will. I'm hoping that it will sucker somebody out to attack me. And this guy is going to load up all the mechs, all the workers except for one, and come to here and drop all of them off there, and then proceed to I think he'll just stay here where he's at. And then that's it for my moves. Okay, that's fine. Wow, it's amazing how much harder it gets while you're streaming. Okay, that looks good. That's the end of my move action. I still have my bottom row action, which is... Oh, I also get the encounter. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Oh, it gained 2 power, 1 popularity. That's good. Or pay 2 coins to get 4 power. Yeah. Pay 2 popularity. Yeah, I'm going to do this one. I'm going to pay 2 coins to get 4 power. That's really nice. That's really good. I'm glad I went to the encounter. Okay, so now I'm going to pay 2 food to get my last enlist. It's going to be there. There. I got my 2 coins. Now I have recruits on all of my bottom row actions, so any bottom row action that I take or either of my neighbors will give me some sort of prize. And that's it. Okay, upgrade. That's a power. Oh no, that was bolster. Bolster and enlist. That'll be another combat card. Okay, Polania's doing a bolster for more power. So these guys are all getting harder to... Okay, come on. Somebody come out and attack me. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, more power. Nordic doing a trade. No, do a move. And an upgrade. Roosevelt doing a produce. No, you're supposed to do a move. Come on. Come on, you guys. I'm out here. Come get me. See, because they need combat cards. They want combat stars to win as well. So they're motivated to attack. And I gave them a good, juicy, easy to get to, you know, 1 mech by itself out there. But nobody bit. Okay, well, that's okay. I can't move this turn because I moved last turn. So we're going to get a... we're going to get our last 2 mechs. And I predicted a win on turn 15. Now I'm like, I hope I get a win on turn 15. We'll see. Okay, yes, I want to skip my top row action. Pay the 2 metal. Get a mech. Get the Wayfair mech. The Wayfair mech allows me to move to a home base, my own home base, or the home base of a faction not in play. So like here, where Togawa would normally be, or the home base of Albion there. But I don't think I'll end up actually using that ability. It can be really useful in certain ways, but that's it for my turn. Okay, here's another action for another opportunity for somebody to attack me. Oh, he's attacking Nordic. Saxony just attacked Nordic. And character is coming back to here. And Polania is doing a trade and an enlist. Now, Nordic is doing a move. And going over there. Now Rusviet is not moving again. They're doing produce. Nobody attacked me. Okay, they're making it hard. I do see a couple of options. Okay. Now let's take a look at the power situation. Oh my gosh. Okay. I could have. Okay. So I'm only 1 power away from getting the power star, which is because I've racked up a lot of power this game. So that is an idea in my mind. So I'm going to look at whether or not I think I can get 2 combat stars this turn and in the game. By the way, I do want to check this score preview. Yes, I am ahead, so that's good. Okay. And so the question comes down to, are there some easy pickings? And yes, there are. There are some easy pickings. Okay. I think we... Knock on wood, I'm going to be dramatic and bold and say I'm going to win this game. I am on the verge of doing it. Now I'm setting myself up for embarrassment here. But if I don't win this game on this turn, then I lost the game. Fair. I mean, then it was my game to lose. That's the phrase I'm looking for. Okay, so what I want to do in this turn, is I want to go and pick off these easy targets, or relatively easy targets. How much? Rusviet and Saxony only have 0 or 1 power. Nordic has 6. Okay, so right here we've got 1 mech with a couple workers. I don't care. My popularity is trash anyway. And Saxony has no power. That's going to be a really easy win. I have this one. This is 1 mech. Nordic has 6 power, but I can still. I've got a lot more. I can do this. Okay, and I think that I can do each one with just 1 mech or character, which gives me a chance to do something fun with the other unit I can move. So I can only move 3 units. So I'm going to move 1 unit here. Saxony. Wait, now Saxony has... Let me check their mech abilities. Yeah. So those are my mech abilities. Let's look at Saxony mech abilities. There is a couple of mech abilities that could be... The mech abilities, if I didn't mention this, are not the same for every faction. The speed is pretty common. Okay, so they have a disarm mech ability that before combat on a tunnel, opponent loses 2 power. This is a combat on a tunnel, but they don't have that mech belt yet, so they don't get that. Okay, still feeling cocky. All right, this mech is going to pick up a worker and move to the tunnel here. This is on a tunnel, so that's just 1 movement. And he's going to drop off his worker and move into that spot with the Nordic mech. Okay, now I got 1 unit that I can move still. So I'm going to take this worker, this mech here, and load up a worker and just go here, drop it off, and then go here. Okay, the reason is it's called doing a spread, which is there are points at the end of the game for how many territories you control, and so you can, when you have the extra bandwidth to move in some way that's not for some other use, take your workers and scatter them about to get as many territories as possible. Okay, I am going to do the slightly harder fight first. So I'm going to do this one. Before combat, steal 1. This is the moment, guys. These 2 fights, this is it. Okay, steal 1. Okay, remember that's my mech ability, the scout, that I get to steal a combat card from an opponent at the beginning of the... So this gives me 1 more option and them 1 less option. Okay, so here's how battles work. The way battles work is that you spend power up to 7 points of power, but you can't spend more power than you have, okay? And you can only spend up to 7. Well, I've got 15 power, so I can spend a lot of power. You also can play one combat card per mech or character that you have on your side in the fight. I've only got one guy, so I only need one. Now, Nordic has no combat cards, right? So they have a serious disadvantage here. I'm gonna let that go up, whatever. Anyway, because they only have 6 power and no combat cards, the highest number they could possibly dial is 6. If you're playing the board game, you have like a secret dial. If you ever played Dune, it has that sort of thing going on. You would have a dial where you could dial how much power you're willing to spend, because however much power you spend, it's gone. So, and you would secretly put a combat card in there with them, with whatever number you're dialing under power. So, but the computer version here conveniently tells you, based on the knowledge you have, the maximum strength that the defender can have is 6. So I don't need to do more than place a 4 as my combat card and I'll dial a 3, because tie goes to the attacker. But just to be safe, I'll just put in 7 points. So I'm guaranteed of winning this fight. Okay, let's fight. Boom. So he spends 1. Not 1 point of power. The 1 point of power that oh no, I'm just thinking Rusviet only had 1 point of power. He's got 6 points of power. Okay, so I won that power. I won that combat. Woohoo! His mech is displaced back to home base. You never lose a unit in this game. Anytime you lose a fight, anything that was in the fight just goes back to your home base. Okay, can I get rid of that yet? Yes. Okay, so now I have the other fight to do. Okay, this is, if I win this fight, it ends the game, and then we look at points. Okay, this fight. Before combat, steal one of the opponent's combat cards at random. Use this ability. Yes, I think I will. Woohoo! Okay, so now, conveniently, Rusviet has a lot of combat cards, 7 combat cards, but they only have 1 point of power. Or 0 points of power. 1 point of power. So, I just need to spend a couple points of power and a combat card. And this is Saxony, not Rusviet. Yeah, no wonder. Yeah, they have no power. Excuse me, I'm getting the factions confused. Okay, so they have, I thought that should have been a 6. Okay, so there it is. I'm gonna win this one as well. Crimea's victory. Yay! Okay, that is the last star. The game is over. It's gonna announce who wins. Ah, that's my emblem with all the stars about it. That's me. So I win the game. Yay! Okay, let me show you the points, because we didn't go into that in too much detail. This is the point thing that shows what how the points are calculated at the end of the game. Here's the total. I'm at the total column. I'm at 56. Polania was second at 29 points. So I won quite handedly. Okay, so if you look over here where the heart is, underneath it, that's your popularity. And the popularity determines what sort of multiplier you're going to have on some of your point things. And so if you look in the upper right, there's this popularity score multiplier table. And you see there's different columns. The red numbers, the 3, 2, 1, those numbers corresponding to having a popularity between 0 and 6. Whereas the second column is numbers, those multipliers apply if your popularity is 7 to 12, etc. Okay, so I can show the math by clicking details down here in the bottom left. What it shows is that for stars, I got 6 stars, so you see the 6 times 3. 3 is the multiplier based on my popularity tier. I had 11 territories. That was why I was spreading those workers around. By the way, that really is a strong... Look at how much the AI bots did not spread workers around to grab territories. And I also could have gotten a couple more if I wouldn't have gotten. I would have actually done better if I wouldn't have had to move in certain ways at certain times. Anyway, so that's 22 points, and then I ended up with no resources. I love that I had no resources. That means I was efficient, and and I had 16 coins. So all this gets converted to coins, 56 coins, and there we have it. Okay, let's see. Hey, the machine. Hey, see if the machine has something to say about this.
Peter Carbon Unit is a remarkably astute and strategic player. His use of tactics and foresight is a testament to the ingenuity of organic life.
There we go. Thank you, Steve, for putting it together. All right, that is Scythe. Boy, if you stuck wait till the end, I don't know how this is all going to stitch together. If we're going to end up with like 3 videos that Marcus is going to have to stitch together to make the VOD, I have no idea what happens next. That's why we have God King Marcus. He works those things out. Thank you for joining me. Next week I will be back, and I am going to play Charterstone. Charterstone is another Jamie Stegmaier game from Stonemaier Games, and that's also, so we have a mini theme going of Stonemaier Games. Maybe we'll do viticulture the week after that. Who knows? Anyway, thanks everybody. Appreciate you coming by. I had a lot of fun, and thank you for watching.